Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by CCG Poker and Paramount Social Club. I'm joined today with Brandon and his sister's dog. Hey, Brando.
What up?
He's like our fifth guest on the show. Your sister's dog.
She's definitely the worst.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't know.
I'll take a drunk quarantine Jordan.
I was going to say Jordan was pretty drunk. If you haven't listened to that episode, that's like episode... It's early, like super
like
early.
6, like 4.
Yeah, 4 was Jamin, so I want to say, it's like really early. I'm looking it up real fast. Hang on, it's worth a listen to.
All right, we're 30 seconds into the podcast. We have our maximum amount of listeners before they all just hang us up.
And
say this shit sucks. And you're already looking for stuff.
Right. Episode 7, the one with Jordan Hellstern, the 2-time WSOP ring champion. He's got 2 WSOP circuit event wins and quite a lot of cashes. He's also way into makeup and other things. It's great. He's super fun. In the PLO tournament, I got second in. Casual name drop. I think he fired.
You probably got about $8,000 Jordan dollars.
Yeah, I think he fired like 7 bullets, maybe 8.
Yep.
Yeah. So many bullets that in a normal gun, you'd have to stop and reload. So he's like, when he fires bullets in a tournament, it's like the Hollywood version of where you're like,
the gun just never runs out of ammo.
6-shooter. Like, how is that possible? Like, you had to have reloaded. Like, did we just miss it? No.
Right, pop.
Right, bro, that's the
eventually you got to stop.
It's a Western. Like, you can't have that many bullets in a gun. It's impossible. Hey, everybody, welcome to The Overlay, the podcast about nothing. I'm your host, Ken. I'm joined today by Brandon. Hey, Brandon.
You just love introductions.
I do. I like people to know who I am, because then otherwise they go to like other card rooms in Texas and then they like don't know me. Like we did that meetup game at Paramount. We were like, come play with the Overlay Poker podcast host, and then some guy was like on the thread or like in the thing. He was like, "What the fuck's the Overlay?" It's like, all right.
Well, geez, thanks for. How about stealing my thunder there, bud?
Yeah, like what would you rather me put in the text that goes out to people? Hey, come play with 2 giant fish who are just dying to give their money away. I mean, would that be better?
It's basically what we were saying, just in the form of a podcast.
I mean, we were really going to name the podcast Real Big Fish, but then there's the Real Big Fish podcast, which is about the band Fish. And oddly enough, they try to make the podcast episodes as long as the normal songs are for Fish, which are about an hour and a half. So it's
are they that long?
Yeah, Fish songs are the worst. Sorry to any Fish fans out there. I'm a Fish fan.
I think they opened one time for DMB, and I didn't go.
For those of older players out there, DMB stands for Dave Matthews Band. This tip brought to you today by Ken from CCG Poker.
What are we going to talk about today?
I mean, it's the perfect time of year. We were trying to come up with an episode idea, and I had been texting Brandon on Monday night during a meeting about what I should bet on for the national championship game for the end of March Madness. And then I was like, it's Masters Week. Brando, what are we going to fire? What are we going to sprinkle? Where are we going to sprinkle some money at to figure out the fantasy sports playing and sports betting rules of kind of the day and age we live in now? So sports betting. Poker players and sports betting go hand in hand.
They really do.
They really do, especially now. Like
these days, it's in the post-legal
post-bookie days.
Right.
We're calling it better days.
Dude, this dog's going to keep dropping this bone. Mm-hmm. And if I murder a dog on a podcast, does that am I...
I'm pretty sure podcasts are inadmissible in court. So you're fine.
Which means I'm good?
Yeah, you're fine. Inadmissible. Sidebar, I did start rewatching. Lindsay and I are watching Better Call Saul again, so we can
it's a good one.
It's so good. I forgot how good the first season is, and I don't remember all of it. It's considering spinoff shows are never very good, and then to get a spinoff show that's so incredibly good, it's a standalone good show on its own. You don't even need to know about Saul.
You would not even need to know about.
If you've never watched Breaking Bad, you probably should. But if you haven't, you can easily watch Better Call Saul because it's great. You don't even need Breaking Bad to make it happen.
But Breaking Bad just makes it so much cooler when you see the people that are
you
in
get all the little
Easter eggs,
and it's so much fun. Anyway, sports betting. So I was texting Brando, what should I bet? And I ended up not betting the national championship. You didn't either, did you?
I didn't. I missed it on game time. I was on Kansas in the over, and we were talking about how the spread was 4, and we didn't know if we should bet the spread or the money line. But I thought Kansas was going to win.
It was one of the rare times that I had called you to see like we were bouncing ideas off of each other what to do. And I'm not a huge sports bettor, but I like to bet the big stuff. And Super Bowl, national championship. For me, the Masters is up there in those types of things. Like
absolutely, it's the one golf tournament a year I'll probably bet.
Correct. I don't bet like random baseball games. NBA playoffs are coming up, so I'll probably maybe pick off some of those. Like once it gets to like the, conference championships and then the whatever. So like they're big stuff. And it was funny. It's like one of the first times that I called you to see like what your thoughts were, and I didn't like it. You were like Kansas in the over, and I was like, I kind of want to take North Carolina in the points. And I was like, And I just, I think we both talked ourselves out of it. Yeah. And like neither one of us, I'm like, all right, well, I'll call you later but when I'm done with my meeting. And I'm like, what time's the game start? 8:30. Yeah, I should be done by then. So like, I'll call you on my way home and we'll figure something out. But yeah, that's what sports betting is like now. It's so much easier now. And just everything's about sports betting right now in Vegas, I feel like. Like all the advertising, like everything's sports.
I mean, they're building new casinos and they're building the pools based on sports betting.
Speaking of which,
based on the fact that you can go to the Circa,
right?
And
now the Circa is the old
up to the Circa is brand new.
Circa's brand new. I thought it's not the old. It didn't replace a casino. It's just called Circa.
Well, it's in downtown, so it might have. I don't really know.
Okay, all right. But that place looks sick, and
it does.
You're not doing
swim
this
up to the bar and place a sports bet.
The entire back half of the hotel is like one giant television with pools and other pools and bars and bottle service during the day. Like it's nuts. Like
it's like a whole different experience.
Yeah. Because like when I used to go to Vegas when I was in my early 20s, which was 20 years ago, like it was all about the nightclubs. Like you had to get into the right nightclub, and then you'd have to do like bottle service, and like that was the cool thing to do. And like we slept all day, and you gambled all night, and you did it again the next day, and you went to a different club. And where'd you get? I wanted to hear blah 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 blah. And then now it feels like that no longer exists. It's all about the day parties and the pool parties and the pool clubs and. Now
the nightclubs still exist. Maybe we're just getting older.
Maybe
but it's definitely way more relevant. Like the pools and the pools and the day parties, like you said, and like the beach clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
is just such,
But now they're taking
mainstream.
Yeah, you take the Circa idea, and they're taking the sports book from inside, which used to be relatively small. In a sense of like the grand scheme of things, like that was not a huge draw for casinos, but now that's the huge draw. Everybody wants to have an awesome sports book, or they're doing like a Barstool sports book. I mean, they're all of these huge places. Like when I saw pictures of that during the NCAA championship, I was like firing through TikTok, and like it was insane the amount of people and just how big it was. It looked like a football stadium of pools. With like televisions that were the size,
TVs everywhere,
and I mean like, I don't even know how big they are. Like the people were like ants, and these fucking TVs were huge, like the size of a building. They were like 2-story TVs. It was nuts. Tons of them out there. Super cool. I'm not a huge sports bettor in general. Besides like
but I think like sports betting in Vegas, I think used to be like a little sidebar degenerate area where like a small niche group of people went.
A lot of old guys smoking cigarettes like, hey, you got anything on the number 6 horse?
Yeah. Betting horses,
right.
A couple degenerates just firing NBA games. But now, I mean, obviously I went there in March Madness, which, 2 weeks ago, which is obviously one of the biggest times of year to go.
Short of the Super Bowl, I would say sportsbooks, that's probably the second busiest time. Right.
But like, guys are bringing their wives down there and spending the day down there. You wouldn't do that 20 years ago. And now it's like, if you want to bet, they have not only can you go to the books, but you can go to their kiosk and bet anything under the sun. you can download their app
That's what
and
blows my mind.
download 75,000 times more than everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I started scrolling through FanDuel today, which it is kind of crazy that like Nevada doesn't allow like FanDuel and DraftKings to operate in Nevada. I think it's got to just be like the casinos that are saying we ain't allowing that.
Right.
But you scroll through FanDuel and you look at what you can bet on the Masters, and I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds
unbelievable.
and hundreds of bets.
I think it's I mean, it's good and bad, right? It's nice that they make it easier, but the problem when things get easier is that it's too easy, right? Like I almost felt like I'm a perfect example. Like I'm a pretty knowledgeable gambler when it comes to like casino games, and you put me at any table, I don't care what it is, I can fumble my way through and at least look the part, right? I don't look like a noob or nobody's going to make fun of me for like,
even if you stink, people aren't going to know it.
Correct. They just think I'm dumb, maybe not dumb, but you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to be like, oh, that guy's know what he's doing, get him off the fucking table. Like I played blackjack one time at a table and the dealer's showing a 6 and the girl had a 19 and she's like, I really feel like a 2's coming. I think I should hit this. And I was like, what are you doing? Like you have 19. Another guy split queens. I was like, what are you, bro? Why? Why would you split queens? So I mean, stuff like that. I feel like when I went to the sports betting side, short of like saying I'll take the Bears and the over, and that was about all I knew. I knew you got points and there was a different point spread, and the point spread would change but depending on where the kind of money was going. If more people were leaning one way, then the points would change to kind of reverse back so that the books could have an even amount of money, ideally on both sides, right? But like
that's the goal.
I didn't really know what money line meant. I didn't know what like a 3-team parlay teaser and all of these terms that are now much more prevalent. Like 20 years ago, if you just sent me to a sports book in Caesars, which used to have a beautiful sports book, it was awesome. It was right next to the poker room. I don't know if it's still there now.
Still is.
I mean, it was a cool place now, but it was empty. It was this huge empty space that like nobody went to. Like we would just go over there to like when we were broke and out of money, like you just watch TV. It was like the broke out of money spot.
Watch the sports.
Hey, it was just like I don't want to sit in my hotel room, so like I'll just come down here and get a couple free drinks and maybe play video poker while I'm sitting here. I might blast $20 and like that was it, and other people that weren't, big time gamblers, card games, that table games type stuff, like that was always a good spot for them to go. And I feel like now the popularity of sports betting is just off the hook, and your phone makes it so much easier to like, oh, I want to bet a 5-team parlay of this, that, and whatever, and your phone will do it right for you, and then you don't have to like not worry about, if it wins,
saying it right, the number, everything, the whole experience of like, it's pretty intimidating to go up there and be like,
it is
500 on 7841 money line 7, and actually like I wrote it all down on my phone. Like I know every team. Mm-hmm. Like I am well cultured in the sports betting world. I went up there and was placing a $100 8-team parlay for your sister, and I screwed up one of the numbers, and I ended up putting like a 400 plus 400 huge dog in there instead of like a minus 600 huge favorite.
Right.
And like it was by accident, and then like she was reviewing the ticket, and she's like, "Oh, are all these right?" And like thankfully she like stopped, because I would have been like, "Yeah, sure, of course they're right." Like I wrote it all down. And actually, one of them was wrong. And I was like, wow, like, if I'm making mistakes, like, certainly it's pretty easy. And, like, the intimidation factor, and, like, there's such a huge line, and they're pushing people through, and boom, 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 boom. Like, you get on the app, and it's just like, all right, well, let me click around here. Let me figure this out. Let me click around. Oh, that's kind of cool. And, I mean, obviously, it's a catch-22, because it being so easy makes it so easy.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go from having $0 in your FanDuel account. At 7:01, I had $0 in my FanDuel account yesterday. Clicked 3 things, deposited $2,500, and by 7:05, I'm betting the Bulls game. That starts at 7:10. And I mean, you just didn't have that access 10 years ago unless you had a bookie. And even then, it was like you could bet, all right, kid, what do you want, the spread or the over-under?
Right.
You couldn't bet Zach LaVine to score over 30 points and the Bulls center to have over 8 rebounds.
Right.
And then their alternate line here and this and that.
Yep. In-game betting.
It really is fun, but it's a slippery slope.
It is.
Because, I mean, you look at all those sexy payouts and you're like, oh, that could be me. Somebody does it every day. Yeah. It's like, well, no, there's a reason why it's 10 to win 50,000. Right. Because it never happens.
Who are you telling me that consistently bets like $1 a day on like these?
Oh, yeah, my friend Joe.
And he does what? And
Sure.
how many legs are in the parlay?
He does like $1 up to $5 every day of NBA first basket parlays. So you have to score the first basket.
Mm-hmm.
And they're usually between, it pays out like anywhere from like 75,000 to $1 million, depending on how many he does.
Let's make it a little simpler. So we don't want to be those guys that talk about it in like gambling code or lingo and then not have what does it mean to bet a parlay? What is a parlay?
They're all linked together. They all got to win.
Meaning you make 3 different bets and all 3 bets have to win. You have to win all 3 bets, and if you do so, it plays exponentially higher than if you'd just made each bet individually by itself.
Right, like in simple terms of like real straight up, like if you were going to walk in and bet 3 teamers, like you would, a 3-teamer pays 5 to 1, right? So like instead of winning $100 3 times on whatever, the Bulls, the Magic, and the Thunder, the NBA with the spread, winner. If you put $100 on each game, you'd get $100. Well, you put 110 on each game, you get $100 back, and you'd make 300. If you parlay them, it just costs you $100 total, and if they all 3 win, you win 500, which is obviously better than 300.
So when you stop and think about it like that, and you're like, oh, I don't lose as much because I had to risk 300. Now I'm only risking 100. Now I was risking 300, actually 330 to win 300. Now I'm only risking 100, but I could win 500. Kind of seems like the smarter play.
It does. But how about all the times you go 2
out of 3?
You go 2 out of 3. Normally you would win $90 if you bet them all separately because you'd pay the juice on the loser and you'd win the 2 winners, or you would lose 100. So, you go 2 and 1, you're like, oh, I went 66%. Like, this is great. Yeah, well, in the parlay world, that's a loser.
Mm-hmm.
That's last place. So back to the first basket. It's literally who scores the first basket of the game, which is obviously a crazy coin flip, crazy amount of luck. Everybody's kind of got decent odds because even LeBron James you get 4 to 1 back on your money because there's 9 other guys on the court that can score the first basket. Even if it's your best player on the court, it's still kind of crazy odds. And you parlay 5 or 6 or 7 of those together, which is obviously a 4th and 90 Hail Mary.
Right.
You gotta, you know what I mean? It's not like a 4th and 15 Hail Mary. Like this is like
it's a 4th and 90 Hail Mary with your third string quarterback and and
no wide receivers.
Yeah, only linemen in the end zone.
And I mean, honestly, it really is.
Yeah.
And
it's stupid.
I mean, it's really hard to hit one of them, let alone 7 in a row. But that's
why it pays out $1 million.
That's why it pays out $1 million. Yeah. You lose $5 a day. And the reason why the site can pay out $1 million on those is because there's thousands of people willing to punt $1, $2, $3 a day, and they just accumulate all this free money. That when the stars align and somebody hits it, they're like, okay, cool, let's post it on Twitter, tell everybody that this guy hit it, and now 1,000 new people are like,
and let's be honest, to them that's almost a better,
it's a marketing win.
Yes, it's like, it's so great. It would be like if somebody in the $20 early bird won the main event, it would be like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, it just brings you more early bird players. Right, it's kind of what we miss in poker right now with the online poker, and eventually online poker will be legal all across the United States. I don't think it's a matter of if, it's a matter of
it's when. A slow process,
right? They're just going to continue to just make this happen, and just people are more comfortable now with gambling, or the government needs money enough to make it where they're just going to have to do it. Like, it is what it is. If you'd asked my dad 20 years ago if marijuana would be legal, he would have said, no, you're crazy. That'll never happen, right? I mean, if you ask somebody in the 1920s, you'd think they're going to bring alcohol back? Probably like, nah, probably not. I don't think so. Well, yeah, you see, definitely not. That was my 1920s gangster voice.
That's a good voice of the 20s.
Not too bad.
100 years ago.
Yeah, see, here I got a couple of bags, and I'm going to get some juice.
I think online poker really is on the same exact timeline as recreational marijuana, right? I mean, it started with a couple states, like
medicinal.
Colorado,
that was the medicinal side of things, right? Couple states. Yep.
And then, and now all of a sudden you start picking up steam, and it's got to go state by state because it's never going to be federal. They're never going to flip a switch and say, ding, it's legal in the whole country. Like, they're not going to do that with weed or online poker. It's going to have to go.
Because some places can still opt out, right? Like, they want to be able to opt out. If they really want to make it a thing where they're not going to have it happen,
this is why it's the United States. It's 50 separate states, all governed differently. And
people are always surprised by the fact that it's the United States of America. It's not just one big happy, right? Everything's different.
Everything is different.
It's wild.
And you start getting these bigger states. I mean, we got Michigan now. You get something like New York. You get something like California. Something like a big domino, Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania's good. You get like Florida. You get one of these big old states that finally gets it pushed through, and that gets the momentum for
the domino kind of falls.
And, Delaware and
how many
Indiana.
places is sports betting legal in the United States?
When I was scrolling through, because I logged on to FanDuel when I was in Vegas just to see, and it was like, you are not in one of the governing states. You cannot log in. I think it was about 15, if I had to guess. I mean, definitely Illinois and Indiana, definitely Arizona. I know those three for sure. Definitely Michigan. It's all, I mean, I would say about 15 if I had to take a rough estimate. Definitely under half, but into double digits.
Where is sports betting legal? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Vermont, Washington, D.C., Washington, the state, and Washington, D.C., West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. There's a ton.
That's a lot.
It's a ton.
Now, maybe, yeah.
And
so
Wisconsin
maybe
apparently
all those
is like,
don't just have FanDuel, which is what I was looking at.
2023 or never. They've got, that's wild. Huh.
I mean, it's here. It's real. It's amazing it's amazing that I'm allowed to load up $1,000 and put it on 4 golfers that I know basically nothing about, which I did.
I did it this morning,
and I have $1,500 right on the Masters, and it's incredible that I can do that, but I can't load up $1,000 and play a PLO game that I feel like I can beat at least 51% of the world in.
Well, how did this turn into? Do you really think it's 51%? PLO, I think it would be a higher number because most people don't know how to play.
At least
51% of poker players.
I said at least.
I've seen some poker players play PLO, and it is not pretty.
At least. I didn't want to,
Hey, I mean, maybe we should just call you At Least. That could be like your new nickname. Brandon At Least can beat 51% of the players in general.
Yeah.
I was going to go somewhere with.
You said, how did this turn into?
Well, how did it turn into like the sports betting, online poker, marijuana? Like, it's weird to think that at some point somebody goes, all right, it's cool to go outside and drink a beer, but you can't smoke marijuana and you can't play poker, but you can play blackjack as long as it's at a state approved location, like a casino. But you also can't, I don't know, is Illinois still doing the weird, like you have to go to the place to like sign up the first time?
I think they dropped that.
But it wasn't even really a big deal. Like it didn't really happen. Like we were still talking to PointsBet, which kind of fizzled out. I wasn't interested in what they were offering, so I was just like, whatever. I still haven't signed up for PointsBet. I use DraftKings. I just find that's the easiest one for me to use. It's on my phone.
PointsBet has a really cool idea of sports betting, and it's going to take me 10 seconds, 20 seconds to explain here. Sorry to interrupt you, but
that's okay.
They have this thing where you can they have a player's over under. Let's just say LeBron James is total points, and it's 25.5, which is about what it is, 26.5, something like that on a nightly basis. Is he going to score more or less than 27? And that's your line. And that's what DraftKings and FanDuel, they'll all offer that. And then, FanDuel will also offer that LeBron's going to score 30 at better odds. LeBron's going to score 35 at better odds. LeBron's going to score 40 at even better odds.
Right.
So you can get down with as much as you want in terms of, juicing up the odds and that. But what PointsBet does is they allow you to bet a certain denomination for every point over 27. And for under 27, the same thing. So if you say, I'm going to do a points bet on LeBron James at $10 a point, every $10 short of 20, every point short of 27, you owe 10, and every point over 27, you gain 10. So does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So and I think they're the only website that does that. I mean, that's kind of wild. So you can literally do $100 LeBron, and then every time he scores 27, every point after that is worth $100. But when he gets injured in the second quarter and doesn't come back, and he has 12, you just lose the 1,500. And so it's a really interesting way of like gambling on thinking that they're going to highly exceed or highly, what's the opposite of exceed? Don't live up to, their line. And so that's really fun. That's what PointsBet has.
It would be so cool to do like some form of fantasy poker, like a fantasy poker tournament where like you could sweat, like you obviously you'd play in the tournament, but like if you got busted, you could like still sweat other players. Like that would be super cool. I wish there was a way we could do that, Like,
I mean, they had some sort of like fantasy poker league for the World Series.
That was more for like money won or like final tables.
Yeah, it was like a point system,
which was fine. Yeah. But not that. I want it to be like in game pari-mutuel betting where it's like, all right, Tony's gonna go all in. I don't know, like what? I can't even think of something cool. Be like, how many times is Tony gonna lose with aces? And like if he does, and he shows like, I lost. I only got to do it 2 more times before I hit my 80-1. Like it's just
like a lot. Instead of live betting an NBA game, you're live betting a poker tournament.
Betting a poker tournament. Be like, I bet
Will Phil Hellmuth ever get under 5 big blinds?
Right. Like,
all this kind of random
something
shit.
super fucking crazy. Like that would be super fun. Back to sports betting in Vegas in general. There is a new the Mirage is getting torn down and they're redoing it and it's coming back.
The Mirage is getting torn down?
Yeah, I just saw that.
No.
Yeah. Like Mirage. It's going to be a Hard Rock. Yeah, they're gonna. It's sold.
Come on.
Yeah. I'm not making this shit up because I love the Mirage. Mirage is like one of my old school places. It's
I know. Allison always talks about. Me, Kenny, and
we
Bert
love the Mirage. Yeah, but it's been sold to. Is the Mirage closing? That does say they're just going to do a rebranding. The entire 77-acre site at the center of the Strip will be overhauled, and all 3,000 hotel rooms will be gutted and remodeled. The Mirage will disappear, and a Hard Rock hotel, very different from the one opened east of the Strip in '95, will take its place. Because they did know that like this week was the last time that like the volcano out in front of the Mirage was going to run. If you remember that one. Yeah.
I do. It's like the last thing on the Strip.
But it's like the whole thing. Like it's a rebranding. They're going to tear it down. They're going to make it a Hard Rock and then end up putting in a huge sports book somewhere in the back, and it'll be in a pool, and it'll be cool as shit. And I mean, it's fun. I mean, a lot of people now, it's funny when I talk to, who was I talking to at CCG? It's like Tony Pirelli. He was like, yeah, my son and I went, and I'm like, oh, does he play cards? Like, do you guys like? That's kind of a fun father-son trip. Like, if you were both into poker, that would be neat. Like it would be fun. And he's like, nah. He's like, he doesn't really play poker. He's like, I play all day long, all the daily tournaments. He's like, my son ends up just going to the sports book in the pool and just hanging out, watching games all day. And I was like, yeah. I mean, that's like a thing that people want to do now. That's a vacation. A vacation is to go sit in a pool, watch sports on TV, and bet on them. Seems like a pretty good vacation.
It's really cool that Vegas just is rich enough, and these companies are, all in on that weird 4.5 mile strip in the middle of the desert that, like, when stuff's not relevant anymore, they just get rid of it and rebuild it. The 90s Vegas is gone.
Yeah.
And now it's like the 2000s Vegas is about to be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy how it just like every 10, 12, 15 years, it's like, oh, Mirage ain't doing it anymore. Like it's adapt or die, and we're going to adapt. We're just going to renovate all 3,000 hotel rooms,
it's a new
put
thing.
a huge sports book in, and it's kind of sweet. You don't see that in very many places. I mean, like obviously like Disney World, they upgrade and stuff, but like even the surrounding towns around Disney World, they're 90s towns. You go through there and it's like a bunch of 99-cent souvenir and Ponderosa steakhouses.
Shops.
Like honestly, and it's really cool that Vegas is just like, because you look at the Strip now and you can see that in 15 years all those old spots like Flamingo, and if they're going to be gone and they're going to be brand new, super cool, where all of a sudden like Aria and Resorts World, like they'll be behind the curve in 15 years because they were the new ones in 2021.
The Venetian.
Well, now it's 2035.
Venetian's got to be what, like 30 years old now?
Yeah, it's one of the Venetian's actually really nice. It was the first time.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not bad.
First time I went and stayed there. Yeah. But they redid their poker room. If you remember their poker room, it was super wide open.
Yeah.
Like very wide open, like very open. You can see right over into the sports book. And it was just a big, they closed it off and built up some TVs and stuff around it. It's like everybody's just building. It's cool. It's because you want to know why? It's because sports betting is so easy that we can go there and Brandon can just drop off $7,000, fly back home to Indiana, and make a down payment.
They don't have to have a dealer for that.
A new TV.
Yep. All you got to do is buy a TV and get one guy to kiosk. They don't even need a guy to kiosk anymore. You just go to the automated kiosk or use the app. They don't even need sports betting is now the new like one-armed bandit slot machine. Doesn't take any maintenance. They work 24 hours a day. They don't take sick days. They don't complain about work. There's no unions. It's great.
I will say, I was all up in arms because I was at the Win and I was trying to hedge out of a parlay, and it was halftime. In the opening round of the tournament, it was 9:00 Vegas time. I mutter over to the sports book and it was closed. Like closed. 9:00 on a Friday or Saturday of March Madness. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, how is this possible? And the pit boss or whatever, the floor at the poker room was like, yeah, man, there's kiosks all over the place. He's like, we don't stay open anymore. I'm like, well, how do you cash a ticket? He's like, take it to the cashier. They'll cash it for you. I'm like, wow. You don't even need somebody running the sports book anymore.
Nope.
It just sits there and funnels millions of dollars. But I will say, wrapping up the sports betting, the betting of the future is the in-game, is the phone, is the single game parlays. And I mean, that's just because that's what they've branded us. Like, I used to think that single game parlays was the biggest scam. It was so dumb. Waste of time. I just want to bet the Bulls. I don't really want to bet all these players. And now I don't even bet the Bulls anymore. I'm all in on the single game parlays. And they've just showed me that it's cool and fun. And I lose, but it's fun. And heaven forbid if you're going to a game. I mean, I went to a Blackhawks game. You just see guys in their phones all over the place at the bar, firing. Oh, the puck line's now 2.5, or let's prop this guy to score a goal in the third period, or let's have the goalie to have over 37 saves. It's just like you can bet whatever you want for as much money as you want at the click of a button on your phone, which is wild. If you told me 10 years ago, I'd say you're crazy. 10 years ago, you got to log into Big Man Sports and bet with your bookie.
Yeah, bookies are dead.
Bookies have a weird spot. They have
a weird niche of people who don't actually want to bet money that they have. They want to bet money that they don't have.
Right.
That's the problem with sports betting in Vegas. You got to go with $1,000. If you want to bet $1,000 on whatever, you pay them $1,000. If you win, they give you your $1,000 back plus your winner. If you lose, you get nothing.
It's the same thing. If I want to bet, if there's a whole slew of NFL games and I want to bet $1,000 on 5 games, am I ever logging on to FanDuel and depositing $5,000 to put in the bets? Hell no. I ain't taking $5,000 on my bank account to go bet.
Right.
But I will text the bookie and be like, here, let me get $1,000 on these 5.
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, you went 3 and 2. Oh, you went 2 and 3. You owe $1,000.
Right.
That it's the same, but it's different. It doesn't feel so bad. I mean, when you lose, it obviously sucks, but you don't have to physically take your $5,000 and put it into an account where it's just locked up for 3 days, even if you want to cash out. And if you cash out too much, you get a nice little tax form. So bookies will be around forever just because they can. There's always going to be people that want to bet
for a while.
They don't have.
For a while, right? Like they always talk about like was that movie The Gentleman. He's like, well, marijuana is going to be legal soon, and then your whole system here of underground, selling marijuana on the black market doesn't exist. He's like, yeah, but when they brought alcohol back, the underground market still was very good for 10, 12 years before the legal market finally catches up. So it'll be kind of the similar idea.
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, I know that the underground marijuana business is still fine.
Right.
Obviously, it isn't what it was when I was in college. And
sure.
Brando wants to join. He's got to go to the guy, Now you just drive to a shop, but you pay 3 times as much. I mean, it's still relevant. There's still people that are like, I'm not waiting in line to show my ID to pay a 25% tax. I'm gonna call the guy in the corner. It's still relevant, different but relevant. Same thing with sports betting. Bookies, they're still there. If you want to bet 1,000 a game and don't pay taxes, still talk to your bookie. If you want to lose 15. If you want to lose 15,000, but you only have 5,000 in cash, you want to slow pay the other 10. Talk to a bookie. They'll take it. They will. Slow money is better than no money.
That's gonna do it for Better Days from Brandon.
Better Days.
The Better Days from Brandon.
You didn't even tell your Better Days story.
I was watching the Masters yesterday. On today's Thursday's first day of the Masters. My pick to click is going to be. I like. Ooh, who did I come out of? I'm going to go with Cameron Smith. I know you didn't want to pick him, but that was my pick, so I'm putting it out there in the ether, and I totally just mushed myself. Another great betters.
I'll give you mine. He's 24-1. I like Morikawa.
Yeah, Morikawa's good.
And Xander Schauffele.
Xander Schauffele is really good, and I did bet Xander as well. Yeah,
in every major,
he plays really well. He's due, and he's been there a bunch. He's been near the lead for a bunch.
Relevant.
I like the Xander bet. We're gonna hope both of us can bank the Xander Schauffele bet.
24-1, I think.
But my Better Day story is I was watching the Masters live on the range. They just talk about guys, blah 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 blah. Mostly it's about Tiger Woods, and then after that's done, the next show is on. It's a show called Better Days. BETTER, BetTor, like a guy who's betting on a BetTor, and they were telling the story about this guy in the Kentucky Derby that went to go to this random little casino to place bets. He bets like $400 in all of these exactas and trifectas and boxes and all this kind of stuff. Which if you don't know, I won't go into it.
Parlays for
it's super parlays for horse racing.
You need exact first, second, third. This horse. They
pay out crazy numbers. And this guy was betting like $40 per bet. Long story short, he ends up binking, and this is the Kentucky Derby where the horse who finished first place got disqualified. So it changed all of the bets. Anyways, his $400 in bets, parlays, ended up paying him out like close to $700,000. So he's obviously, this is like you not only caught lightning in a bottle, you caught like lightning in a thimble. I don't even know what to say. Like it's a thimble. Like it's impossible.
I know. That's small.
It's impossible. It doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. So the guy goes to the casino. It's a small little like Indian reservation casino. Goes to the front desk. He shows the guy a ticket. And he's like, "Oh, we don't have this much cash in hand." The guy's like, "Oh, I understand." He's like, "I don't want it cash anyways." He's like, "I would just assume that they would send me a check or like wire me the money. Like no big deal." And the guy's like, "Oh." If you notice down here, and he's like, and the TV show was so cool because they made it like so like absurdly ridiculous of where the sign was hidden, and it's like behind the bush on the backside of the counter, like behind the garbage can, underneath like a rag. He moves it all aside. He's like, "Oh, no pari-mutuel betting is permitted at this," and it only paid out like 150-1, which means his bets ended up being from 700,000 down to like 35,000. Now, don't get me wrong, you bet 400 and you win 35 grand. That's amazing. That's a great story. But to bet $400 and turn it into $700,000 is life-changing different. And the guy actually had a pretty good outlook on it, and it was just like, meh, I guess I should have read the fine print,
Yeah, that would be
pretty wild.
I would be in a different world.
But see, that's what happens. The difference now, and we'll wrap this all together nicely in a big sweet bun. That was the old way of doing things. You went to a counter, you placed a bet, and sometimes there were caps on things, but they don't tell you that when you buy it. You're thinking, I'm betting this huge parlay where if I win, I'm going to win massive amount of money. But in actuality, it's capped. You can only make, even though the odds say they're 5,000 to 1, 50,000 to 1, nah, you're only getting 150 to 1. That's the max payout on anything. So nobody would make that bet. it's different now with the way sports betting works now with kiosks and other things. You punch it right there. When I bet Xander Schauffele to win and I put $50 down, it says you're going to get paid out X amount of dollars on a winner. Right then and there, and there's no qualms about it. It's very nice. I mean, I think it's marketing at its finest, right? Because nobody ever remembers. People always say, like, how many times did a tournament, like at Paramount, like, oh, we want to flatten out the payouts because they always chop anyways. I'm like, that's the point, that you don't flatten the payouts. Nobody remembers the chop. Everybody remembers what first place is. So, like, there's a reason why first place at the main event is so juicy, because that's what everybody remembers. I don't remember that Jamie Gold, I don't remember what the final table payouts were. I remember he won $12 million, right? Like, you remember the big numbers. When I'm making a bet, right? When I'm making a bet on Tiger Woods for $100 to win $8,700, I don't remember that I wasted $100 on a TW bet that's probably never going to hit. I'm thinking in my mind, man, what am I going to buy with that $8,700 that Tiger Woods won me? You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it goes. So I like it. Don't be the guy on better days who got bamboozled because he didn't read the fine print. Anyways, thanks for listening. Make sure you check us out in Chicago, and Brandon and I will always be making a trip down to Texas sometime soon. We're going to make some summer trips.
I think I'm going to go. I think I'm scheduled to go in August.
And Brandon and I'm
not going to go before the main event.
Brandon and I will both be at the WSOP this summer, so definitely come and see us. It's only 2 months away.
Which I was at the doctor's yesterday, and they were like, "Oh, let's make a 3-month checkup," and I was like, "Okay, cool. Anything during the week's fine." And she's like, "July 5th is 3 months." I'm like, July 5th, I'll be playing the main.
Nope.
Sorry,
I'll be in Vegas.
So I was like, wow, that's only 90 days away. I'm kind of getting excited.
I know. I got to start rewatching my masterclass on how to play poker.
You need to watch more than a masterclass.
Yeah, I'm gonna need something. I'm the 1 game, 8-team, 8-leg parlay guy for the main event. I have no.
He's the guy that plays the main event when you come home for the main event, you're like, yeah, there's guys like this playing the main.
Yep.
Like, the story is made after him.
What a dream table! I played with this guy with this really wild hair. It was awesome.
Right. He had no idea what he was doing.
He drank like 6 rock stars. He 4-bet aces twice.
What an idiot.
Right. I mean, clearly, I might as well just flip my cards over because they know what they are. But if all of you notice, I'm just a better blind player anyways. I might play the entire main event without ever looking at my cards.
Okay.
You know what? I think I might try that. What's the bet on that? How much?
Let's just see if you can make it.
If I make it to day 3, I'm no longer looking at my cards. It'll be great. All right, everybody. That's a promise from Ken from the overlay. I will not look at my cards if I make it to day 3 of the main event this summer. Thanks for listening. Share us with your friends. We are an almost critically acclaimed podcast. We almost got nominated for a Poker Go Award. Almost.
We almost got nominated.
We were on the ballot.
Ballot to get nominated.
We're on the radar. we're the Masters amateur bet that pays out 5,000 to 1. Just put $1 on us. You might win.
Maybe we'll hit.
Maybe next year will be our year when they finally do an entire poker news story about this jackass who didn't look at his cards for 4 days and made the final table. Boom. We're going to be huge. And then you guys can say, everybody, that you knew us before we were famous. It's going to be awesome. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Farewell.